Childhood ghost trauma? Long story short, I experienced some outright terrifying, unexplainable things in my grandparents' house growing up. My brother did as well. Things that to this day I don't have any answers for. Does anyone else have stories like this from growing up? How does it affect you now? How do you rationalize or explain things to yourself in your head? Did you ever find or seek any sort of closure? We'll start. I had to downright horrible experiences that are still bothering me to this day. Maybe it will help to get them out there. These things started when I was around 4 years old. The first instance I recall, I was laying in bed. Everyone was in their bed sleeping. I should have been sleeping, but had stayed up a little too long with my TV on. It was pretty much my nightlight my entire life. I had flipped off my TV, and in the doorway, a shadow was cast from the hallway light. It was as tall as the doorway, so around 7 feet tall. Long cape, completely solid. It almost looked like it was covered in leather. It had weird eyes. It was just watching me. I yelled out for my grandma, who was 4 feet 10 inches tall. The figure did not move, it was just watching me. It didn't move, it didn't say anything, it just watched. I was so petrified at this point I could not scream. I just pulled my blankets over my head until the sun came out. My brother and his girlfriend saw this figure years later, described it to AT, and they had no knowledge of this story as I was too afraid to talk about it for years and years. I even sketched it out in a book when it happened, and I still have my shitty 4-year-old me version of what I saw. Fast forward a year or two, I'm sleeping on my bunk bed. Once again the TV is on. I'm facing the wall and the TV is facing me. I heard the old TV click off. I just rolled over and cut it back on, thinking I had maybe hit a button on a remote. I rolled back over and closed my eyes. I heard the TV click off a second time. I rolled back over and clicked on the TV. The third time this happened, I started to panic. I heard a horrible voice saying, "Look at me, look at me," almost like a deadite voice. I never looked, I laid there so scared. It felt like something was breathing down my neck, and it was loud. I was wide awake, not asleep. It felt so evil. Both of these experiences have really continued to bother me. I still see the thing in my head. I still hear that voice. It's etched into my brain. We have collectively all experienced weird things in this house since then. Nothing as scary as these two things, however. I don't believe in a god, or the supernatural, or anything like that. I have a very rational scientific brain, and I think that's why this is continuing to bother me. I've considered trying to seek out proof with cameras, voice recorders, just to give myself some closure, but I'm also terrified to open that door up if it does exist. Does this seem evil? Is that a thing? Recently, my grandfather has talked about seeing my grandmother. I can't shake the feeling that if this thing does exist, it feeds off the vulnerable. And now it's presenting itself as my grandma? This all seems too wild to talk about with Reddit strangers. But also maybe that's where the answers lie. Thoughts? Stories? Anything. Literally anything that would make me feel less insane? Do I talk to mediums? I don't even believe in this stuff. Just want answers or closure or something. Help!